There you go. And it's live. So we're back for is this day number 3?
I believe this is conversation number 3. Yes. Interview number 3.
4.
Conversation
This
3.
is number 4?
4? I don't know.
We're already lost track. I think it's 4. I think it's Thursday. Did we start Monday?
Sure.
Day number 4. And Pat, I'm going to let you introduce our friend today because you're a longtime friend with him.
Yeah. So up in the I can find him over there is my very dear friend Brodie Hutchins, who has been a subject of maybe 3 episodes. A good friend, met him in Pennsylvania, and he is now living in the south of Nashville, and been in touch with him and like, hey man, come on the show and let's hang out. So Brodie Hutchins up there wearing swag. We're twinning today, which Jason and I try not to twin, but me and Brodie don't care. I've known Brodie. I was trying to do the math. I kind of suck at math, but I'll say somewhere between 25 and 30 years, probably in that ballpark.
92?
Okay, because I had 5 in my head. But yeah, 92 would put it close to 30 based on my horrible math. It'd be like around 18 years. So,
Well, and I fact check. It is conversation 4.
Good job. Yeah.
Yeah,
well, I joked that our intern can't be with us because of this whole situation going on.
Right.
So everything's just gone to pot. So, yeah, we just wanted to have Brodie jump in the conversation today. And Jason's going to monitor people coming in and asking questions because, as usual, I'm on a phone that's very small. But, yeah, we just want to kind of hang out with Brodie and see what's happening. And, everyone's we're all kind of quarantined / sequestered / isolated, whatever you want to call it. So kind of reaching out to our friends. Hey, what are you doing? What's happening? And so
we got a lot of miles between us right now.
That's true. Brodie and I just decided that where I am in Atlanta is about the same distance from my house to his place in Nashville. So I'm not sure. How far are you from Atlanta? Do you know?
4 hours?
Yeah.
3.5, 4 hours?
Yeah.
Depending on which side.
Mm-hmm. We can meet at Chattanooga at Songbirds. Let's go. I'll get in the car. We'll just bang on the door. We'll bang on the door until somebody opens it.
That's not much distance, though. We probably need more.
All right. That's true. So we thought we'd ask Brodie to come on. And one thing in talking to Brodie, because does not fancy himself a collector. He's sort of like me and maybe Jason in the sense that he's a non-seller.
That's a good one to put it.
Yeah, a non-seller. So you can't put cards up on these YouTube live things, but like if you go back through our channel, you'll find us talking about Brodie's electric collection, his acoustic collection, his amps, and then a couple pretty special guitars in that group. And,
yes, there's 4 videos.
Yeah,
that's 4 because the collector's edition, the collector's edition was by itself,
right?
And the electrics, acoustics, and amps. And he has a few amps.
That's right.
There's a couple of them behind him.
Yeah, wall of sound.
It's funny. I didn't prep Brodie for this, but like the 2 guitars that were in the collector's choice, that's what they call it, right? Collector's choice.
Yeah.
So, yeah. One is a 59 Les Paul, and one is a 61 335, the Pretty Woman guitar.
Yes, sir.
He's got. That's why I said I didn't prep you. I don't know. They're in the wall across from you, but I don't even want to bang them. But like the 59 is, you got the one of the first 5, right? What number did you get in that one? 3?
Yeah, it's serial number 5. I could have had
5.
3.
Right, but who got that one?
3, I don't know.
Okay.
It was just there, but the top was completely plain, and since I'd seen the original one, I wanted something more flamey anyway. But this one had a subtle flame like the original one. Probably more subtle, but I wish it was a little flamier. But I went with 5 because I like the flame.
So it's a 59 Les Paul, and it is patterned after Gordon Kennedy from Nashville that Brodie has become pals with. And so that guitar originally came from
John Sebastian of the Love and Spoonful.
Yeah. So Gordon acquired that guitar, and over time, Gibson wanted to do a collector's choice, and Brodie's friendship with Gordon sort of gave him an opportunity to buy into that collection and get one of the low serial numbers. And that was probably 6-7 years ago. It's been a while, right?
13 or 14, 2013, maybe 14. So
yeah, and then still then Gordon's. I don't want to steal all the thunder because you know him and I really don't. But Gordon's dad is Jerry Kennedy, a very famous producer Roy Orbison, Pretty Woman,
Session player.
And because of that, there was a Gibson used on the Pretty Woman song, one of the 3 guitars in that intro hook. And
yeah, and I didn't know that until you and I went to Musicians Hall of Fame. One was a Jazz Master.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the other one was, and then the 61 335. All 3, I think, stacked that riff.
So Gibson, I think, enjoyed the first project with the 59. They worked on doing one for that 61 335 and did another collector's choice. And you were fortunate enough to jump in on that one in the top 5 and got a certain number on that one too.
I got 3 on that one.
Right.
So.
And which one of those top 5? So those of you who don't know Gordon Kennedy, quite a career in session playing live. A little bit of Peter Frampton's right-hand man, especially on the acoustic tours. And so Frampton got a higher number than you on one of the.
He got 1.
Yeah, which
he's Peter Frampton. So
that's fair. Right. That's right.
He's Peter Frampton. I'm not.
So this is a very long segue into. So Brodie was able to acquire one of the Pretty Woman guitars, and we have an episode where both of those. Before I knew what that 59 was, Brodie handed it to me one time when I was at his house, and I was just like, "Wow, this feels really great." And then I later heard the backstory of it. So in these whole prototyping these guitars and things like that, and Brodie's relationship with Gordon Kennedy, an opportunity came up for Brodie recently to acquire another Gibson that was like, I'm referring to it as a prototype of the prototype. And I asked Brodie to talk a little bit about that particular guitar today. For one of the two that we're going to talk about. He probably has those handy because he was warned about those.
Yeah, they're all in proximity here. But the collector's choice started, I think, about 2013 or so. And what it originally was is Gibson trying to go back and, these, Stradivariuses of the electric guitar community, the holy grails, go back and find all of them because there's such a finite number, and try to recreate all of them. The ones that, Billy Gibbons had owned, or Don Felder, or Joe Walsh, or guys like that. And as they started making these lists of people, they started with the series, and there were a couple, Greg Martin of the Kentucky Headhunters. There, of course, Bonamassa had 2 or 3 of them, I think. Vic Duprat, Jeff Beck. I mean, there were I forget how many it's up to now, but it's more than 60 collector's choice runs. Most have been Les Pauls, but then this 335 became, I forget what CC number that is, but it's way up there. But the Les Paul, the Sebastian, or the Spoonful Burst, they call it, was number 13 of that run. So it was one of the earlier ones. Ed King of Leonard Skinner, they had one of Red Eye, his guitar too, but
which wound up at Carter's, I think, after his departure, right?
Yes, it did, along with the Sweet 8 that he had as well,
and the Sweet Alabama Strat was there too.
Yeah, 73 Sunburst Strat that he really didn't like. That was kind of the interesting story. It's like, hey, do you want this guitar that the player didn't like?
Right.
It's
that he wrote a very famous song on.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, like Pat was saying, the Pretty Woman guitar, which was featured on. Let me grab it.
Jason, while he's grabbing that, any traffic and questions, anything that we're missing on? Sorry.
No, I'm not seeing anything on the stream yet. It looks like there's been maybe a person or two watching, but
stalkers.
Right.
Yeah. So back February of about a year ago, Vintage Guitar actually did a write-up on it, and you see the original that was on the cover, and they called it "Oh Pretty Gibson." And they, this started, a number of years ago. The original idea was to release the guitar on the 50th anniversary of the song "Pretty Woman," but that, because of timing of things going on at Gibson and other projects and this, that, and the other, it ended up not happening the 50th year to commemorate the song, which was a little disappointing to Gordon and his dad. But they ended up, and it was originally to be a Memphis custom shop production.
Right.
So back in, I think this guitar finally came from Gibson, Memphis in August of 16. And I don't know if you can see it real well on there or not, but it originally had a Bigsby on it. You know, they thought, well, let's put a Bigsby on this thing and send it to them. But the only purpose of this was to get the neck profile right on the original one. So they had the original 61, measured it, shaped it, and basically brought this guitar to Gordon and said, does this neck match to you the way that it matches the original one? And said, yeah, it does. So there's no serial number on this. There's no, the color is actually a little darker. It's almost like a bloodier color than a regular red 335. But so Gordon had this one and played it, and actually he's been out on that Garth Brooks,
right?
On the Garth Brooks stadium tour the last few years, and was playing this guitar. And then not long after around Christmas time or so, said, "Hey, I think I'm going to sell this one. You know, are you interested in it?" So I had no idea what to offer him. You know, I had no idea. So he was, the gentleman that he is, threw out a number, and my jaw hit the floor. Like, is that it?
Right.
I'm like, yeah, I would love it, because that Pretty Woman guitar is really cool, and I play it a lot because it sounds great, but all that stuff on it kind of gets in the way. I just wanted a stop tailpiece red 335. I have
because it has an apparatus behind the bridge. One is a little bit like a B bender-ish kind of thing, and the other takes the G string and drops it. And
no, the B, it's a real B bender, only instead of the strap thing, you just press your palm down. It's actually great. The B bender is great. It's that big paddle thing where it takes your high E
that's right, not the G
up
string,
or down, depending on what you're doing. And that was,
and that was so he could show up at a session and cop like pedal steel sounds. Basically, it was a tool. It was a working man's guitar that they actually bought parts from, like the hardware store, and modified this guitar. And but again, this guitar was not really mimicking that whole thing. It was like, here's the neck shape. It's on a 335. They weren't trying to match the colors and all the scars and the bumps and nicks and all of that.
Right, because this is basically new. They just put in, build it like a 335 and happened to put a Bigsby on it. And then Gordon took the Bigsby off and just put a stop tail piece and used it, because it's great. It's got these, like, I think they're custom buckers or burst buckers or something. They're very PAF-y. And it just, when you strum it, it bounces. You can hear them acoustically if they're great or not. And
question I didn't ask you when you told this story before. Did you get the Bigsby with it as well, or did he repurpose that for something else? Or?
That's another fun story. No, I have a picture of it when he first was telling me about these guitars coming out. He sent me a photo of this with the Bigsby next to the original one and said it's starting. They're getting the prototypes ready. And then he took it off, and I asked him about it. I don't know, right? I guess when I had bought it, I said, "Would you still have the Bigsby?" And he said, "No." He said, "I sent it to Joel Hansen who played in PFR." So I don't know if you're a PFR fan, but he might be the coolest Beatles voice I've ever heard. Killer voice, killer player. But Gordon had done work with him in the past, and they're really good pals. I'm fortunate enough to be an acquaintance, but they're pals. And Gordon said, "Yeah, I talked to Joel, and he asked me if I had a Bigsby endorsement, and he said, I got something better. Here's a free one." So that Bigsby that was on here is up in Minnesota.
Nice.
So
that guitar, so Gordon was nice enough to sort of pen you a note to give the backstory of that guitar. And so sans serial number, there'd be some reference at some point of what that is. So it's a cool story, because you have another 335 that you got like well after you were a Strat guy, and you love that guitar. It's like a Honeyburst 335. Jason's got a blonde one. They're great guitars. And so for you to kind of have one that's maybe a little bit more of a player, right? Like you're not dragging the collector's choice out and dragging it to the church and random gig. So that's cool.
Yeah, this one's good. And maybe if I'd have had a 335 from the start, that may be all that I would play. I don't know. I mean,
If it weren't for Larry Carlton, I wouldn't have known early on what they were like, because everybody I like played Strats, but Larry Carlton, like, that's the one. But,
I'd probably play more of it fit in a double gig bag.
right.
That's
why you like the 339. The 339 has a smaller body fit.
Right.
Well, the 335, it makes you look slimmer, when you hide behind the bigger body. But
that's why
I do what I've really taken it out, but it's kind of one of those, typically take two. And so if I'm taking that, I'm carrying 2 cases. So I don't know. Plus, it's that time of year when I pull it off the wall and the neck's moved a little bit.
You have to wait till like mid-spring to get the Gibsons down.
I was gonna take it, and I mean, like, the action was. I was like, oh, I think it was fretting out somewhere or something. I just had Chris fix it not too long ago. Happens every winter.
Mm-hmm.
So something in common that Brodie and Jason have is they love to ride the volume pot, right? And Gibsons sometimes get a bad reputation about the taper on their pots. But what's that one like, Brodie? Like, because I know you like to roll back because you kind of run an amp, very few pedals. It's funny that Brodie was on our show. We didn't do Brodie's pedal collection because it would have been like, well, there they are. There's the 5, and we're done. But Brodie kind of has always been like, his effect is the cable that goes into the amp with some reverb. So he kind of relies on the volume pot on a lot of his guitars. And so what's that one like? Is that one?
These, I've never had bad experience with the Gibsons. I've always found those to be really smooth, both tone and volume. And it's fun to, I'll roll the tones back to like half for that real like Allman Brothers-y kind of sound, sort of womanish tone. Warren Haynes kind of thing, Dickie Betts, Dwayne Allman.
You're Sprechen Sie Beard now when you said Warren
He must be buying better Gibsons than me.
Well, but you like
the Les Pauls.
PRS pots. Yeah, good.
The Les Pauls, I'm looking over as if everybody can see them, but they've been great, both tone and volume. But it seems like on the tones, I'll either roll them back to about 5 or they're wide open. But on volume, there are really 2 key spots for me. It's either right around 7 or it's all the way open on the volume.
Mm-hmm.
And that just takes enough of that bite off of it where you can, stay back and still be really dynamic, or you turn it all the way up to 10 and you've got, just like a turbo on top of it. And that's where if you've got it real gainy, it'll bite through if you hit it harder.
Like, I actually changed the pots had the pots on my 335 changed. So put newer pots in because Gibsons always seem to have that from 0 to like 3, nothing happens, and then bam, everything's there, and then there's not much change. Whereas like on a PRS pot or on some of the other pots, it's more 0 the whole way up to 10. And I like that because you can clean up, like, if you have drive on it and you roll it back, you can clean it up a little bit. And
maybe I just got lucky with the ones that I've got, but I've noticed more of that issue with some of my Strats on the volume knob. They drive me nuts, and on a couple where I don't take them out and play them because it goes from like nothing to everything, and it makes me crazy. But all the Gibsons I have are really smooth, but I'm going to have to mess with what you just said on that 0 to 3 because I never go down there.
Right,
I'm either at like
you said, you're
5
going
or
from
7
to 10. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes back to 5, but never below 5, really.
I think I even changed the pots on the Les Paul Classic. Well, I changed the pickups on it because it had really hot pickups in it. Well, at least I thought were really hot pickups. And then so I changed to more of a PAF pickup on it. I think I changed the pots on that too, but I think whatever pots I got weren't the ones. There's like Chris, if you talk to Chris Delaporta, he'll just shake his head because for some reason with me, I want that. I should just buy PRS pots and put them on all my guitars and just be done with it.
Are they like 500K? What is the magic of the PRS pots? What is the deal there?
Well, it's 500K. If you're using a humbucker guitar, 500K. Typically, if you're using a Strat, 250K. It's the difference between those, like, I always have to go research it, like linear taper pots and the audio taper or whatever it is. Like, some pots have different types of tapers in them. And so some are very, from the very beginning to 10, just a very nice taper to it, so you can roll all the way back or just barely crack it on. And other pots are not so much that.
So yeah, I thought that was, I've watched Brodie roll back the tone, and I think you told me too with that 59 and others kind of rolling the volume back to 7 is sort of that magical sound. So that's why we went into pot talk, a different kind of pot talk, but taper talk.
Well, even my telly, like I did that on that telly with the mini bucker changed the pot value, and then looking for I've driven Chris nuts on a couple guitars, I think, with.
So the other thing I asked Brodie to talk to us about, and those of you who tuned in and maybe didn't have your sound on and thought we were interviewing Eric Clapton, we're not, but he is a huge Clapton fan, and we've always given him a hard time about it, but like the guy loves Eric Clapton, and I don't blame him. Eric Clapton, I mean, you can't find a guitarist that talks about influences and Clapton's name doesn't come up, right? And Brodie's not this, I'm going to go chase all these signature guitars, and it doesn't really mean anything to him, but over the years, he's collected a number of things with Clapton's name on it. And I think I'm probably going to quote you wrong, but artistic license. He's like, it's not that I have to have it because Eric Clapton's name on it, because Eric Clapton has it. It's just that I like Eric Clapton, and the things that make his sound is what he puts in his signature series stuff, right? So when I first started playing with Brodie, as we determined 28 years ago or whatever it was, he had a Blackie Strat. So he had a Clapton Signature Series Blackie Strat. It's either an 88 or 89. The serial number says one thing, and right? Something is that. So
it's an 89 because the first year was 88. 89 was the first year they made black. The first year was 7-Up Green, Torino Red, and Pewter.
So
they were the SE8 ones.
Brodie came from some musical family. Like if you go back and watch the episodes, his dad was really a part of it, and his dad's mom, I believe, bought you that for like a high school graduation present, right? So he has this guitar. I meet him. It's got the THX, boost or whatever. But the point I'm making, and there is one here, trust me.
It's a PJ point.
Yeah. What was I asking?
I'm gonna go grab a cup of coffee.
Let me take some more of this energy.
Yeah, me too. I'm all out.
We'll be back.
So anyway, to his point, he actually kind of made one of the points. So in going to guitar shows with Brodie and knowing Brodie, his goal kind of was like, man, I would love to get first year production in every color, right? And you had the 7-Up Green, but then the band van was in an accident, and that became a whole nother story. But through the magic of reverb or whatever, you were perusing and you found a Torino Red, and it has a really interesting backstory that is not the reason that he bought it. But so I'll have you tell the story backwards, right? Or that you found this guitar, it was the right year, right color, you get it. And so you take it from there.
From there and go back, or from forward and go to where you just left?
From there and then go, yeah. So go back to when you were born. Let's, go back to San Francisco and talk about your grandmother a little bit. And,
Oh, okay. Wow, that's okay. I'll give you the Cliff Note version of that one. For high school graduation, I grew up, like Pat said, just playing music and always wanting to play. And about the time I turned, was getting ready to graduate high school, I was 17 or so, and in the 88, Fender just started to come out with before this whole Signature Series thing got crazy and everybody's third cousin had a Signature Series of something. The Fender Stratocaster, they made a run of the Eric Clapton ones, and starting in 1988. And I remember when they came out, I remember going to a music store and seeing a 7-Up Green one. And the thing about them is, I had a Strat at the time, and when they came out, I didn't know what these were. I thought they were just covers that made it look cool, and so I didn't realize they were lace sensors. So as I started to, I'm listening to like mid '80s Eric Clapton, and all I ever saw was Blackie, and then I started to see like 1986. He's playing these different guitars, and it had a different little bite to it, or a little different sound that I could never get out of a regular Strat. And then I realized it was this, and they came out with lace sensors, which are, they are what they are. I don't know that they're one of my favorite pickups, but it's certainly a hot rodded thing that's got a practical place, and the TBX that's in those. So, here I am that age, and that's my, Wayne's World guitar when he goes in and sees the, that Strat. It's like CBS buyout, blah, 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 So I really wanted one, and that was the time I was going to graduate. And my grandmother, who is just one of my favorite people in the whole world, came in from California for my graduation. And I didn't know it, but, my dad had said what he would really like is one of these guitars. And I didn't even know then that at that point the black ones were out, because they originally weren't going to make a black one because of Blackie, and thought, let's leave that alone. So anyway, he ended up finding one, and we got in the car. She came back from my graduation, and they arranged it, and we went to this music store and went in, and there it was. It's like, hey, how about one of these? And I about soiled myself. I'm like, are you kidding? I was so excited. And that was really probably less than a year when you and I first started to play. It was that new, from when we had bought it. And so anyway, I've always just really loved those guitars because of what they meant to me then, and still the practical nature. I'm still a huge Clapton fan, and George Harrison and all those guys. So, and they're all still fairly affordable, but they're a fun hunt for me on eBay. There are a couple of things, and Reverb. There are a couple that are attainable, that are fun to go out and just look for. And when you find one, you go, wow, look at that, and you start looking at serial numbers and that. Not that they'll ever be, collectible or anything, but they're special to me for that reason. So I'm always looking for the ones that have, I don't know if you see it real well or not, but the SE and then 8 and then as low a serial number as you can, because these were really custom shop guitars before the custom shop. And so, last year I'm looking on Reverb, and I always look up Clapton Strats just to see what they go for. And like Pat was saying, I would love to have one of the first year in every color, just because I thought they were cool. So a pewter one, green one, and a Torino red one. And last summer I was on Reverb, and I found this one, and it was really clean, and it had a serial number of 540. So I knew this one would be one of the early ones. I actually found one that was like one of the first 10, and some guy was asking stupid money for it, and I don't think he'll ever get it. But these are $1,500 guitars, and if they're messed with or customized, they're worth even less. So to me anyway. So I found this, and I'm looking at it going, wow, there's no corrosion or anything on. Nobody had played this thing, which could be concerning. It's like, why didn't anybody play it? But I thought it was just one that was well maintained, and I could tell the description. The guy really knew what it was, and I sent him a note, and I said, I have this real affinity for these guitars, and would you entertain an offer? Because I wasn't going to offer him much different than what he was asking. I was going to try to see if he'd include shipping or something, because it was fair. And super nice guy came back and said, no, I wouldn't at all be offended. I would love an offer and this and that. So we chatted a bit, and he goes, yeah, let's do it. So he packaged it all up, and he was super nice and telling me he was going out of town, so it was going to be half a day till he could ship it. I mean, just one of those great people to interact with online. And I could also tell, he had told me he was getting a little bit older, and his hands were getting arthritis, and he just didn't play very much anymore. And so we get everything done. He ships the guitar to me already. Called me with the tracking number and sent photos of, here's how I packed it, and I detuned it, and I made sure I put everything in the case to keep the neck supported. Just what a great guy. And I told him a story also about, I bought our kids Stratocasters from the year they were born. Girls got pink ones, and I got one for my niece too, and the boys got blue ones. And he thought that was the funnest thing and wanted me to send a photo of them, which I did. And he goes, oh, by the way, after he shipped it, he said, and by the way, I put a letter in the case. He said, here's a really cool story. He goes, I didn't want to say anything when I was selling it to you. He said, but here's a cool story about this guitar. He said, and I'm thinking, oh, he rewired the whole thing, and it's, what's wrong with this thing now? What's been upgraded? He said, I think that he goes, I can't verify it. He goes, but I sent you what I had. Joe Bonamassa probably owned that guitar. I'm like, what? And he said there's a letter in there. He knew some guy from Rumble Street in New York, and
which is
the
now
guy
in
I bought
Nashville.
it from was living in Connecticut, actually. And so he sent me a note where he followed up and said, you know, I know this guy at Rumble Street, and he told me that this came from Joe Bonamassa collection. Can you verify that? And this was last year sometime. Rumble Street writes back and says, well, that guy's not here anymore, but we can verify. And that was from 2012, the original email that he had. And he said, well, we can't exactly verify that, but, you know, Joe's been a friend of ours and a customer for a long, long time. So it's very likely that it was his, you know, and, you know, he was a big Clapton fan too. So I could see him, you know, grabbing something this early to get it. But I mean, for me, it had no impact on it other than it was just a cool story. I mean, I love Bonamassa. I think I love him as a curator and a collector and a you know, keeper of the vintage torch and his gear talk. I love it. I can honestly say I listen to him a lot. I think he's amazing, you know, but I love him keeping the blues alive and keeping the vintage guitar equipment alive. And I mean, he's got to be on an autism spectrum somewhere for the stuff that he knows. I mean, he just blows my mind. It's like, how is anybody that smart?
He's definitely the Rain Man of vintage guitars. I mean, even to the point where like Steve Lukather's talking about his 59 Paul, and he's like, I don't know if it's all original. He goes, I have to call Joe Bonamassa because Joe knows all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You know, and it's like you know, I've had those Burst Believer books that are out, you know, Vic DePraw, who I've, you know, communicated with a number of times. I mean, it's just known in that community that he's an expert. Right. He knows this stuff. He knows pot numbers. He knows production numbers. He knows production schedules of not just Gibsons, but, you know, Fenders, and
right.
He's just amazing to listen to on these. And
so I thought that would be an interesting story to tell him, because I've known Brodie for years, and I've watched Brodie at a guitar show walk away from a guitar he really likes for $10. So I just thought it was absolutely hilarious, personally, that he bought a guitar that he wanted because it's what he wanted, and then, oh, by the way, it was owned by Joe Bonamassa, which is like so secondary to the story.
Right. That's not surprising, because I think Joe owned half the guitars that I have, half the guitars everybody has, probably.
Yeah. And the Japanese own the other half. So
right.
Yeah.
Dan in New Jersey popped in. He said, "Hey,
all right, what's up, Dano?"
He was around at the beginning of the show, like one of the first live streams we were doing too. So
yeah, because we're like, "What's this guy DANOJ?" And your wife's like, "Dan of New Jersey." Oh, right.
Dano
and Jay
off of right.
Danonge.
We don't just butcher people's real names; we butcher their screen names as well. So I just thought, me personally, knowing Brodie and you know, if you follow the channel, you've seen some of the stories. I just thought those were just not your average run of the mill. Hey, since last we talked, I picked up an American Strat, or you know what I mean. So I just thought there was a little bit of an interesting story behind those, and you know, again, Brodie didn't buy either one of those necessarily because of the story, but now he has them and they have a story, right? And that's kind of what we all enjoy, is the story and the history of the instrument, whether it be previous owners or personal stories that your grandmother bought you one for high school graduation, or as you talked about extensively, you know, your relationship with your dad and all those things. So we love those stories that we found out very quickly, and having this channel, that those stories were way more interesting than the actual gear itself. So I appreciate you sharing those today. That was great.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm watching and chiming in all the time and representing, you know.
Swagging. I have a picture from the Vegas Strip with him having that on during the day. Business Brodie.
Yeah, no, I was running with a T-shirt in the morning behind the Beatles love thing.
Yeah,
at
the Mirage. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, Brodie's. You know, we all have. None of us. This is anywhere near our daytime gig music, but Brodie's in the heavy machinery business, and so he's a business guy by day, guitar geek by night and weekends, and so.
And for the record, I worked through my lunch so I could take an hour out now.
So nice. You
for
think
my days on
you
show.
think someone from work is actually watching? Dan in New Jersey.
You never know.
Dan in New Jersey. Do you have anything to do with John Deere at all? Are you a mole? So anyway.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Now, thank you guys for the show and for the education and the passion, and I love it. I've watched everything, even pedals don't even understand what they do. I listen.
Right. We understand them about 15 minutes more than you do when you first see them. So speaking of that, I think Jason, we're kind of doing a bit of a pedal of the day, and he grabbed one off the pedal shelf there.
Right. This was hard. We talked about that yesterday, trying to grab a different pedal every day. And it was hard to figure out which one to grab. Because all the tremolo pedals for that upcoming tremolo series are sitting over there, and I was like, well, let's do something that's not tremolo. And we've beat Leslie to death. I mean, like,
We did.
yeah.
She's going to press charges against us if we're not
Right. If we don't stop talking about her. I think we have I'm doing the Pat rabbit hole things here, but I think we have maybe 2 or 3 Leslie pedals to release yet, and then that compilation, and then maybe a wrap up thing. So, but we only have about 2 or 3 videos that are recorded since social distancing. So we're running out of material, but Magic Matt just popped in, said he loved the Barber interviews.
Yeah.
So, hey, thanks for joining us, Magic Matt. And yeah, I'm a huge Barber fan, so he makes great stuff.
Yeah, talk about a moment. So the direct drive from Barber Electronics is Jason's favorite drive, and about a month ago, down there in the studio, if you will, there's David Barber mashed between Jason and I. He drove on some rainy night and came to some stranger's house and did one of the. He's not known for interviews. It was something.
He didn't just come to do the interview and get out.
Right, he was ready to stay.
He was here. We were here after midnight, I think.
Yeah.
So, and Guitar Hack just popped in. So we might have to just hold up a couple guitars here in a moment for Hack, because I know he's a Gibson guy and he'd probably appreciate those 2 that you were talking about earlier. But let's do this pedal of the day thing. So, wasn't really sure what to grab. I thought about grabbing the Barber, like Magic Matt said. Yeah, so I grabbed this one. Let me see if I can turn the camera on.
Pick a camera, any camera. You got 2 of them on there, right?
Right. I got this little desk cam because I'm teaching high school from home right now, and during the day, I don't know, that light might be too bright, but you can maybe see it.
There you go.
So that's the vintage modern. Just looking at the shelf, I thought, we haven't talked about drives as much lately, and it might be interesting to talk about a drive. You got a level drive and a tone on this side, and then over here you just have a level and a drive. Vintage and the modern side. So I think the vintage side is built after the Church of Tone by, this is a Love pedal.
Yeah, the Cot 50 or the Cot. Yeah.
Right, built after the Cot 50, and then the modern side's built more after, I think, his like purple plexi kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually, before when I picked it up, came over here, pulled up that video that we did of it, and was just going to listen to the jam at the end, and I was like, wow. When I had both of these on at the end, I was just starts to sustain for days. I mean, it gets a tone.
Yeah.
So
while we're on the pedal of the day theme, we've gone a lot into tremolos. We're talking about tremolos, and we tout the Caesar Diaz, but Brodie has one in his paws there. It is, I think we're going to call it the sister, the cousin to mine. I have the blue one, and at the time, and there's my blue one that Jason has right there. So those 2 were ordered at the same time from Caesar directly. I had the pleasure of meeting Caesar Diaz at the Philly guitar shows back in the day. He was always there, and kind of, got to know him or whatever. But like, he was kind of doing some direct sales. So at his house there in the Poconos, he built those 2. Brodie and I learned about them from recording with our friend Bill Campbell, who had one. And we're like, what is that? And so we both have them, and we're fortunate to have them because, as Jason showed up on Reverb yesterday or the day before, they are going for stupid money. Not Klon money, but stupid money. And we have them, and it's another, piece of history that's signed on the inside from Caesar directly to us, and things that we love to hold on to. So another thing that's like, it's a great pedal. Caesar himself built it, signed it. Great. It's a magical pedal. So
I plugged into this. I'll admit, I plugged into this today because it was here. First time I've ever plugged in. It's kind of like you and some of the Leslie pedals. Like the first time I ever plugged into it, I was like, wow. Yeah. That's why it sounds so good. Hey, Magic Matt said down here in the chat, doesn't seem like he gets his stuff as well known as it should be. He's had the direct drive Super Sport on his board for 10 years. So the Super Sport, Pat, I think is kind of like a couple models past what we have down here.
Okay.
And then prior to what he's doing now.
Is the Super Sport
still the bigger box one?
That's what I was going to ask. The Super Sport is a smaller enclosure or the regular direct drive size? The initial direct drive.
Yeah, like the black enclosure. Like,
okay. Yeah.
I believe. He said he hasn't found anything that even comes close. So Matt, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I used the direct drive live for years and years and years. I have a King of Tone over there. I have a whole bunch of other overdrives. And there might be two. Get on the waiting list, I mean, 2 years
right.
is bigger than you think.
It does. Especially when you're old.
Regular size. Yeah. Yeah, I remember which one you're talking about. Yeah, man, Barber's pedals. They're awesome.
See, that's been the great thing about this channel and my friendship with the guy in the other grid is like, you kind of all have your own influences. You have the things you've stumbled across, and then someone else is playing something you never saw before, right? So like Jason's playing Leslie pedals. I've heard them. I've even seen Hughes and Kettner Rotosphere before, but I always thought it was some kind of chorusy thing. I never owned one. And, then I come across the Diaz pedal because of a friend. And then, so it's just part of this whole great conversation, even just between the three of us and our relationships. And then you kind of spread this out over the whole YouTube world. And it's pretty cool. Like some of the pedals that people have tried or something that you thought like, well, I'm sure I'm probably the only one that really knows much about this. And then people chime in. It's great. Like,
or even stuff that I've got because of you. I mean, I wouldn't have a Paul Reed Smith if I didn't know Pat, and like this pedal, and one other thing, didn't you ask him to make colors that he had made? These were supposed to be kind of off colors too, right?
Maybe I don't remember that part, but I'm old. I'm 53, so
I think I've seen those colors on Reverb, but I'm not positive.
I have seen them, but you didn't. I think he was making some that were fairly standard at the time, and you said do something different. And Bill's was blue, right?
I think so. I think Bill's was a little closer to mine. Yeah, I should ask.
Yeah,
just get Bill to take a picture of it and put it on social media.
I will say this: that idea that Barber. Magic Matt said he didn't think he gets the credit, doesn't get the credit that he enjoys, right? Or isn't as well known. We put that video out, that first interview out. All right. So we interviewed Josh Scott, who has like 180,000 or whatever it is subscribers on his YouTube channel.
Yep.
And is really, really popular in this kind of world, the pedal world and stuff. And that video did really well. I mean, that did well. We had a lot of views on that. David Barber had as many as Josh Scott had. After we had Josh Scott's out for a couple months,
right?
He had as many as Josh had in like 3 days.
Yeah, it was wild.
Right, and I think it's because there's not a lot of information out there on him. Like I had no idea what he really looked like before he came over. I had been to his shop once years and years ago. So,
the goofy stuff about our small channel is just funny, the things you learn and find out about, right? So I swear Jason's like a savant or has ESPN or something because his intuitions are right on, and we'll do something or talk about it, and then another big YouTuber will do something right around that same time. So I had never heard of David Barber before, saw the direct drive, we talk about it, and I don't know if I'm telling tales out of school here or not. Well, I'm not, because it's on one of Josh Scott's videos. Talk to David Barber via email. Jason does about interviewing. Goes, I don't know. I'm in conversations with Josh Scott. I'm like, wait, you're kidding me? We just interviewed Josh Scott, So he gives us the approval to interview him, and we kind of steered away from certain things. And then after we had the either interview scheduled or had done it, Josh Scott does a video on underrated drives, and the very last one he holds up is the Game Changer. and basically sings David Barber's praises at the end, and basically covertly announces that he's going to interview David Barber. It's just nuts. And so, and it's proven, right? So you can only imagine when Josh Scott gets around to being able to be with more than 6 feet away from David Barber, of like what traction.
Yeah, I wonder if that will happen, because he did kind of really hint that he was going to do that, didn't he?
Oh yeah. I mean, there was conversations and like some pre-interview kind of stuff floating around on email, and but anyway, just to the point, not to say anything special about us, but I just found that incredibly interesting that like Jason's like, I love David Barber. I don't know he does many interviews. Let's just ask him. And in the midst of asking him, we find out that Josh Scott is courting him as well. So anyway, David Barber, interesting guy. Oh my gosh, like I'd love to put he and Brian Wampler in a room together. have them geek their way out of the room.
Yeah.
So
can you imagine sitting in the room with Josh and David Barber and Wampler and all those guys? I can't even imagine.
Stuff.
I mean, David Barber's intense.
He was, and here's a guy that he showed up with like a kind of weird like ocular migraine or something, and just like the things he muscles through. He shared with us he had tinnitus, he's colorblind, and it doesn't stop him at all. But yeah, it was a great interview. And like, had we understood, here's what he told us, which I found very interesting, because he's, his name's on the pedal. There's like a handful of people that work for the company, that he has over the years, like changed his lifestyle to get up around noon and be awake until like 5 a.m. so that he can engage with his international dealers. Brodie might understand this because Brodie does international business all the time. But he's like, I'd get an email while I'm sleeping. I'd wake up and answer it. They'd be sleeping. They'd wake up and see it. He goes, after time, I just started doing that. So we didn't realize that. We usually shoot like 6:30 because we're old men and wrap up like 10:30. Well, David Barber didn't even come over until like 8. And then he's ready to go. He's ready to go all night.
He's ready to plug in. Like, can we put the amps upstairs? Can we plug? I don't know.
What's that room over there? Can we stick an amp over there?
Yeah.
So it's just interesting. Another interesting backstory, right? So here's a guy that has adjusted his entire lifestyle because of his business. So anyway.
Yeah. Hack said he'd be right back. I don't know if he's here.
He's ice fishing.
He's ice fishing out in the shack. If he pops back in and says something, we'll get you to show him that. He's a big Les Paul fan. Like, he's a big Gibson fan, so he's probably appreciate seeing.
If he pops back in, you'll have to go grab the 59 collector's choice.
Today's Gibsons, or
I don't know. Well, I don't know.
Older Gibson.
He's kind of I mean this, and if he was listening, he's a working man's guitarist, right? He's a gigging guy, and he started a YouTube channel. So he's looking for things that work for him, but he definitely does like Gibsons. So, but I don't think he has any like super rare ones or anything like that. But
he has a couple. He has 4 or 5 nice Gibsons though. He does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the ones out of those Memphis guitars were great. The 335 that I have is like an 06 or something like that. That I don't even know what color it is.
It's like something kind of.
Yeah, I love that guitar. I mean, that's and that's just I got it used somewhere. But anything that they built in Memphis, more often than not, it's a good one.
Jason, do you remember what year yours is? I thought it was around that time. Is that true or not? Am I making that up?
It's an 80s. I'm actually I'm looking it up because I always get it wrong.
He's got a spreadsheet with all his guitars on it, which I probably should.
I mean,
Brody would have to buy a hard drive.
It's in 1987.
Okay.
It's 1987. Natural Blonde, which is a little bit, and I think it has an ebony fretboard on it.
It was built in Nashville or Memphis?
I would have to look the serial number up to tell you that.
Well, the 80s. I don't know for sure on those. But.
We can do like Gibson serial number lookup, right? You just type that in. Decoder.
See, if I was there, I'd be the intern. I'd go grab it off the wall and be holding it up in the background.
So it would have been like 8XXX7XXX. Is that the serial number of that one?
So your guitar was made in Nashville. It was made in Nashville plant on February 23rd. No, that's not right. It's saying 79. That guitar was not made in 79. Did I grab the right serial number? Yeah.
Usually it's like the first and the fourth number are the year.
I think I pasted a tracking number in.
Your package was delivered on
June 2nd, 1987 in the Nashville plant.
Nashville. Okay. Yeah, I forget when Memphis opened.
So,
I talked him into it. Look at that. Made him do it.
Yeah.
I always make him show his good side at least once on these live broadcasts.
I got to hang the guild back up.
There you go. He's got to rotate the crop. Yeah, so if you're joining the live studio, you see kind of why Brodie has this really cool system on the wall of his guitars, and Jason's talking about doing something different because we've got some lovely ones on the wall. Then they're in random racks, but yeah, that's a really nice comp on that one.
Yeah,
I used to not
cool.
like natural. It's probably that's not really doing it justice, but it's nice.
Mm-hmm. Is that nickel hardware? Or
Yeah, I guess.
Nickel.
I think it's yeah.
But I mean, I can't really get it in the camera well. But
What about the back?
pretty
What about the
plainy.
back? Flip it around. Is the back?
Yeah, that is nice.
Yeah.
Oh, don't burn yourself with all that flame.
And then I think
You got some.
I think Chris said that's like an ebony fretboard.
What kind of neck? Is it a 50s or a 60s neck on it?
You see, I'm not familiar enough with Gibsons to be able to tell you the truth.
Is it skinny or fat?
Yeah, maybe a little bit like that 60s Les Paul over there. They have that kind of little flatter feel to them in the back.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like it's thicker down here than that is. There's an SG because the only Gibsons I have are this. The only Gibsons I have because everybody has like a lot of them. I have this. I have that classic, and then there's a 73 SG custom over there too.
Oh wow.
But this is
So when you go walk over and hang that one back up, you can grab that one.
grab the custom.
Yeah.
Let's see the custom.
Wait, Brodie, what year were you born?
73.
So was Jason. There you go.
See?
Look at you kids.
I wish it was a cool year for guitars, like
Right.
now it's an affordable year, at least now to, if you want to buy stuff from the same year you were born.
Right. God,
So, and I got that D8, that one D18.
Right. That was a nice
But
one.
if we were born in the early 60s or 50s, we couldn't afford anything from our birth year anyway.
I was born in 59. What am I getting? Here's a pick.
So that 335 was in no kind of tune. This is a little better. Now, I say 73 because that's the year I was born. It's very likely this is a 71 or 72. I think when you look it up, it can't tell you for certain.
Mm-hmm.
But it's SG custom. It's been hacked before I got it, so it's missing. Terry Himes just popped in. Hey, Terry. It's missing the big. It would have that tremolo.
Yeah.
Wiggle stick.
This is stock. I always thought that was like a weird. Somebody put that on, but that's actually a stock bridge for that. Somebody replaced that back pickup with like a DiMarzio. We think maybe a vintage DiMarzio. What's cool though, what's first of all, you got. I don't know if you can see it. Has all the all the checking and the whole body, the headstock, everything's checked. But that has to be custom.
Yeah, that's cool.
What's interesting is whoever had it rewired it. And I can't ever really tell you exactly how it's wired, but I think.
Yeah, we tried to figure it out the one day, and it was like, what?
Holy cow.
Ice cream truck.
Somebody's trying to sell me a medical brace.
Oh,
I think up here is the middle pickup. Trying to remember. In the middle, I don't even remember. It's so messed up. It's not what it's supposed to be at all.
I think we even had like the tip of a screwdriver or the tip of a knife trying to tap on the pickup. We couldn't even figure it out.
It's like you can get that one, these two, and these two, or like it's just not right. But I think the top, I think all the way up is just the center pickup by itself. All I will say, like when we were doing the blues band, this was the open E guitar, and I would play slide on it. And this guitar sounds fantastic.
It does.
Like, so it's one of those things. Like, I know I should go and have it rewired and put right. The pots work good. Like the pots roll up like a PRS pot. You know, like there's not that weird moment where nothing of hesitation. Like I should go get it rewired, but I'm afraid that they're going to mess it up.
Right.
Or don't rewire it. Just have Dr. Della Porta draw you a schematic of how it is. Yeah. Troubleshoot this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know.
It does sound great. I've heard him play that in the room. Actually, you know what's funny though? I think the only time I heard you play that is when we were dorking around with that diesel pedal, the loudest pedal from hell. I think you played slide on that.
I played slide on that the Guild hollow body, the Starfire on the diesel.
Okay,
we did use this somewhere. It's been down once or twice.
Yeah. So yeah, Brodie, he will underplay his ability to play slide, but those two can play slide. I'm more into sliders. So
Dan said exactly, agrees with Brodie. Why messed up? And that's kind of where I'm at too. Like, I mean, I've been.
If it had all three original pickups for sure, then maybe you put it back. But somebody's already changed something, so if it works for you,
let it be what it is.
Right.
Especially if it's great.
People tried to talk me into Platzer, tried to talk me into having it rewired and having like special switches put on it to kick the middle. He's like, I can make it do everything, and I'm like, but it sounds great doing what it does. So I'm not sure. I want it to do anything other than what it does.
How about no?
Yeah, somebody put like really weird frets on it. Somebody told me at one point they thought it was Martin thin line fret wire on it. I don't know that is true or not, but they are really tiny frets. Which when you're playing slide didn't matter as much, but
is Hack back yet? Can you tell?
This is if you want, this guitar, if you really want to.
How heavy is it?
It's not real heavy. It's not like neck heavy or anything like that. The only thing that when you pull it out for like the first time, you haven't played it for a while, sometimes it does.
Yeah, because there's so much access to the frets. You're just like, wait, where am I?
Right, I go to grab a G here.
Yeah. Because Brodie's played my 63 SG, whatever, same kind of thing, man. You get down, you're like, where am I?
Yeah, I love that guitar. So
it could use. Yeah,
I need to show that thing some TLC and get it over. Because we were talking about P90s one day, and I'm like, well, I've got one with a P90. And hey, I'll tell you what, Brodie, there's a company, Mythos, in your general area, Mythos Pedals in Nashville, and he is making a pedal for this guy, Rhett Scholl. He already made it for him. That is called the Lark. It's based on that Gibson Skylark amp, the one that shocked the dooties out of you. But that amp has tremolo built into it, right? So it's a small amp, low wattage, got that breakup and the tremolo. So he's building a pedal that emulates that. It sounds great.
That amp is great too. I mean, the shock factor is literal and metaphoric.
Yes.
Man.
Yeah, Jason has the original Leslie 16 back behind him that we have not plugged in for the show. We've got that Skylark amp that we're talking about taking to full custom and being like, hey, could you have it to where we don't die playing either one of these things?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it right back there, the Steve Ray Vaughan special. Which it's funny, the whole Leslie series, we scoured the whole East Coast for those and got one and didn't make an appearance on the show yet. Haven't even tried the stereo miking from the side, anything. It's just
well, I mean, we have to look up how to mic it. I don't know that I have enough mics here.
We steal some from a place I know.
Right, because you have to, when you hook that Leslie 16 up, it has this cable that you unplug the head of the, say you're using the PV Classic 30.
As Brodie turned us all on to.
Right, you unplug the head, plug it into this cable, and then run from that cable back into the cabinet. And so your part of your signal, I think it's almost like a crossover. I think it takes the lows and the highs, or the mids and maybe it sends the mids to the Leslie and sends the lows and the highs to the cabinet or whatever, but it splits the signal up. And so you're playing through both amps. So when you don't have the Leslie on, you're just hearing like the PV Classic 30, and then you turn the Leslie on and you have fast and slow speed, but it drops signal out of that over to the Leslie cab. It's really strange, but it sounds pretty cool.
I only heard it the one time when Chris came over. Did you have a second amp plugged in, or were you just straight into that?
Well, no, right now it's not set up to take an amp. Like I thought maybe you could just put the head on it, but you can't. You have to use it with a crossover the way it's set up now.
Yeah.
Which I think I would leave it that way. I'd love to take it over to that place you want to steal mics from and plug it in and turn it up someday. like hear it at volume in a group situation. I think just having that swirl on stage would be fun.
Well, we'll put that as a hashtag goals whenever we can be closer to 6 feet from each other. It'll be somewhere on that list of socializing again.
So speaking of, not being together, I'm going to have to get to we have a grocery store pickup scheduled here this evening.
Nice.
We thought we had the delivery schedule, but something happened. So now we have to drive to the next town over to pick up. So I have a feeling we're going to drive to Mechanicsburg to pick up and then find out that they only have half of what we ordered anyway.
Here's a brown banana.
You mentioned slide earlier. I've been playing around a little bit. The other night I had the guitar out and was trying a couple different slides than what I would normally use.
Ooh, there you
the
go.
one that's like the ceramic one. That's the one you got at Creeder. Is that right?
Right, that was one I got at Creeder, and I'd have to go over there and look to see who makes this one. But this one's really cool. No, that's the Creeder one.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah,
this one's really cool, Brodie.
Oh yeah,
it is glass, obviously, but if you look, I don't know if we can see this. If we get it in right, it tapers on the inside.
Oh wow!
So like you have a bigger hole.
Is that easier to use or more confusing?
Well, what I like about it, so
yeah, there you go.
I like
PG-13.
so when you put it,
I know what you mean.
put it on because of that taper, and I like the shorter slides on my middle finger that stop a little bit. So when you put it on, that taper it snugs right onto your finger. It really feels nice.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So you do it all right, then that would work. I was thinking it would like taper with your finger. And that would feel weird to me, I think.
No, so it doesn't let it fall all the way down. It stops it kind of.
Ah, okay. Yeah, because I like these little glass Dunlop. I don't know if it's a 218 or something. And here's one that's really cool. The ceramic ones. I mean, it's a different animal. This is one of those Joe Perry ones I got for Christmas or something. It's pretty cool.
So that is pretty much this.
The ceramic?
Right, because this is the ceramic. So they made these blue moonshine ones, but you have the same size. They stopped making these. I can't find them anywhere. This is my favorite.
Yeah, this one's cool. I mean, glass is more practical, and here's one my grandfather made me. It's brass.
Oh, nice.
And it's just, kind of the same size. I actually gave him one of these glass ones, and he, measured it and
that's cool.
Pretty cool. So
the ceramic's my favorite. I love the ceramic one.
I have so even if I were home, for me to participate in this discussion, I have other things that are about that size, but they're not hollow in the middle, and you pour spirits in them. That would be as close as I would get into this discussion.
Well, this will help you curb your drinking if you pour it into here.
That's right.
Dan put his slide finger up in the chat. This is Silica Slide, that glass one I was showing you. It's made by a company called Silica Sound. So they're hand-blown glass guitar slides. And he even has written down here what model. Model 423 red with a 15.2 millimeter taper ID. And so they have like a whole chart. But I ordered that off their website a long time ago. It's a cool company worth checking out. And
most of them are using a Bud Light 12-ounce slide.
That's right.
Go to the bar.
That's what Danny Gatton did. Danny Gatton would do that.
Yeah.
Make the head of the beer foam over during some of the sections of the playing. And
we could wrap up with this one.
Kenny Geitz could do that too, by the way.
This was found in my classroom.
Oh yeah, this is cool.
So you probably won't be able to read it, but
they were the ones that Joe Walsh used to use, right?
so
Like
this is an actual, like kerosene bottle from. This is
50s.
great. The phone number. All right, so it tells you this was Mrs. We won't say her name, although I'm sure she probably wouldn't mind.
Well, it's because you have her medicine. She's not with us anymore.
She was supposed to take half a tablet twice daily. Her phone number, the phone number for this drugstore, if you'd like to call up and get some, is 71229.
You have to get Sarah to put you through to Ain't B to get to that one.
Right.
Wow.
And the date on the bottle is 11/30/59.
That's cool.
So that was sitting in the back room of it was like sitting in it's actually ironic. It was in a container, like this old wooden chest that's full of equipment to make slides, like microscope slides.
Mm-hmm.
So this bottle was in the microscope slide making container. And I just stumbled upon it one day and I was like, I think I'm going to
borrow that.
Throw that away.
The kids call it bogarting, I think. I think that's what the kids call it.
Wow. Well, I saw a thing with Joe Walsh one time talking about those little bottles, and the funny thing is, his voice, he goes, yeah, everybody thought we were addicts and stuff. And I'm thinking, you were.
Because you were.
It's like,
you didn't do anything.
But yeah, they used to use those all the time. And, Dwayne Allman, if you see any of the photos like with him on that, they were using those as slides.
I think Derek Truck still uses, I think I saw in an interview that he uses one made by like Dunlop or something, but made after, that.
Mm-hmm.
Dan in New Jersey asked if there's a refill. I'm going to call them. Dan, if you want to call them, Dan, they might have some. It's 71229.
You have to call them.
Phone number for the drugstore.
It's Makira Comb.
I've got a prescription for this, trust me.
All right.
Here's my slide.
We've been going, what?
Hour and 7 minutes.
Yeah. So
seems like 5 minutes ago.
Probably time to we can get to Mechanicsburg. So we can venturing out of the house for the first time in like 7 days.
You got to put on your hazmat suit. Remember, put extra duct tape around where the shoes go and the gloves so that nothing gets in there. And I can.
When Marty McFly goes to visit his dad at night and wake him up, and he's wearing that space suit, like with the orange or the yellow space suit, plays Van Halen to wake him up.
Yeah,
says, "I'm from the planet Ultar." Wear that to the supermarket.
Let me get Jason cleaned up before he goes out. There we go.
Hack just said that he's back. Even though
Bonus
I'm about to end this and need to end this, Brodie, how would you feel about showing Hack that Les Paul we were talking about earlier?
The 59. Yeah. Collector's choice. Don't get
so
crazy.
Hack, you can go back and check out the 2 335s. They're really cool. But Brodie has a pretty nice Les Paul here for you. My camera's doing that thing where it gets all fuzzy.
You look good though. Ever since you got the pill bottle out.
So this is a what, Brodie?
The 59 Collector's Choice. It's a nice big fat neck and a little.
After you said the loving spoonful.
Loving spoonful, yeah.
The spoonful burst.
So Hack, I know you're a Les Paul fan, so I thought you might like to see
like
probably like to play it more than see it, but
like 8 pounds, 6 ounces. I mean, it's really great. It could be a tad lighter, but it's it's not 6 figures, so I'm not going to be too picky.
Right.
But
it's nice. It's really nice. It came with those licks.
One last question for Brodie. What's your favorite guitar in the room?
Oh, man.
Oh, wow. It depends. For what?
What's the category, right? Yeah.
That's
most
sentimental. You could only keep one.
House is on fire. You run past the kids. What guitar do you have in your hand?
Oh, man. I would grab that Black Strat. Just sentimental value. It's not the most valuable one, but depends. If I'm just sitting around, I have of all things, a Taylor gut string guitar that I love to play. But I've got a 52 reissue Telly that has become a real go-to. It's just, you can make it work for everything.
You know, it's funny. All the ones you mentioned were special gifts, right? High school graduation, 40th birthday.
Yes.
All three of those were gifts from family members that you mentioned right there. So, so here's the point, Jason. If the world gets back to normal and we're at NAMM and we're at Brodie's house, let's set off the smoke detector, have him grab the Strat, and then we just grab whatever we want. Because he just clearly said it doesn't matter.
He said take the Black Crafton Strat. We're going.
We know which ones to not go for.
If you're here, you're gonna help me carry the rest of them out, and I won't have to make that decision.
That's right.
I have 52 or 50s hot rod reissue or hot rod Telly. Like it's the 50s Telly with the mini humbucker.
The Seymour Duncan, yeah.
I've had a whole heck of a lot too. I really lately, like a lot lately. Every week until last week.
Right.
Yeah, they're easy. You can plug it in and it works. You know, the older I get, I don't want to wrestle with anything. I just plug it into anything, and you can get through whatever you need to get through.
Terry says you have two hands, grab both.
That's right.
True.
We should send Brodie that sticker we got from Toman. It talks about how many guitars are in the house. You know, like you have the little sticker that says how many pets or how many children. Toman from Germany sent a sticker that said, you know, save my guitars or something you're supposed to put up in the window for the fire department.
Oh, did you see the this thing? I was watching this thing on the stimulus you're talking about. I don't want to get political, but it's a photo. It's a picture that showed, why guitars don't qualify for this. And it says, $1,000 and below it, because it says, because we know what guitar players will do with this money.
Yeah, that's right. Right. That's right. That's right. Watch it. When those
planning on what they're going to buy with their $1,000.
When those stimulus checks comes out, let's get some stuff out on Reverb.
Yeah, I remember a number of years ago, people were referring to it. I forget when it was, but big screen TV money. I'm thinking, big screen TV. I'm getting another guitar if I get one of those.
That's right.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think we're about that point. Brodie, thanks so much for hanging out with us today, man.
Hey, thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. I love it. Love the show. Keep it coming.
It's great because hopefully we'll all be together in July in person. And Jason already feels like he knows Brodie, but they've never been in the same room together. He's edited about 3 hours of interviews with Brodie and now just sat with him for another hour and 15. I'm not sure if it gets.
I have to do this again, so
I'm not sure if this is as good as it gets or it doesn't get any better. But this was really great, to sit and chat and with an old friend and talk about our love of gear and help people sort of pass the time as they're trying to figure out which end is up these days. And so, Brodie, I've seen the schedule your wife put together for your children, so hopefully you're not in trouble for whatever schedule she wrote up for you, because we've kept you for a while. But
no, I got to finish up some work here too. So I'm trying to diligently keep my day job duties up to speed as well.
So you're like Jason, you just have to be within arm's length of your computer and you're actually working. Is that how it works?
Well, no, I mean I'm up and at it pretty early on too. So
right.
John Parker from Facebook says Brodie is the man.
Yeah, that's a true story.
Wow, crazy. Not at all, but thanks, John.
All right, so with that, Pat, I think we're out, man. We'll see you tomorrow at 4:30, and I think tomorrow Brian Landreth is going to join us.
Okay,
Brian a little bit. So
that'd be great.
We got some stuff coming up next week. I don't know if Hack's still in the room, but I mentioned to Hack the other day about joining us, and I'm hoping next week, probably early in the week, maybe we can get Hack on here and have a talk with him. And we have some other people that we're working on or talking with right now. So,
right.
With that.
Yeah, with this whole trifecta here, this is a great time to remind you that no matter what you hear, you never have too much gear. Wash your hands. Peace out.
See you.